Okay guys, I'm going to try to be fast and tight with this. We are going to do a quick pros and cons on the Elcan SpecterDR 1 to 4. Full disclosure, I run this optic on all three of my rifles that I train with regularly, and after trying many setups at many different price points, I gotta tell you, this is one of my favorites. Despite all the internet hate, most of which from people who have never actually got behind one of these, let's talk through the pros and cons and you can make your own decision. Let's get into the pros first. We have a proven, rugged optic which has been deployed in a lot of environments for a lot of years, and it holds up. It is built well. You've got glass quality, which is pretty solid. It's not the best glass out there, but it's pretty darn good. With that glass comes an etched reticle, which is a big deal, and it's very bright. The illumination, that center dot illumination, functions like red dot bright, daylight bright. There's also the option to illuminate the whole crosshair, but that is more for low light usage. Here's a huge one for me. I have astigmatism, which depending on a few factors can be very, very annoying. So I'm already kind of lean a little bit heavier into prisms than red dots in general. If you set up your 1 to 4 with a piggyback red dot, you're really getting like 3 optics in one. You have a 1x prism, you have a 4x prism, and then you have a red dot, which I use when I'm in weird positions. So think you're shooting one of the lower positions on a VTAC barrier and getting behind that prism and finding the right spot behind the lens is a little uncomfortable. The red dot is there to be more flexible in that environment. I've heard a lot of complaining about the eye box. I gotta tell you, I find this way more comfortable to get behind than many of the LPVOs I have used. Maybe it's just a personal preference thing, but to me, I get behind it and I'm like, wow, this feels nice. It has pretty decent eye relief. It's 2.76 inches, so not the longest, not sweet compared to certain LPVOs out there, but plenty comfortable. The battery life is pretty solid. I don't find myself changing the batteries on this. These are all 2032 battery models, so a little bit newer. I don't find myself changing the battery any more often than I would my other red dots, so that's been great. Okay, so let's get into the cons. The biggest con by far is the cost. These were, they're made with a kind of a military focus, and they are priced like you're selling it to the government. So you have to make peace with that. If you can buy them used, I think they make a ton of sense. The retail price, especially on those newest models, is crazy. That is the biggest con by far. Here's a con which really drives me nuts, and that is that the red dot size changes depending on your magnification level, or should I say the red dot size is fixed when your magnification level changes. That means you get a 1.5 MOA dot at 4x, but you have a 6 MOA dot at 1x. Ugh. It's fine. It works. It does allow you to acquire it quickly, but man, I wish that dot was smaller at 1x. It would allow a little bit more precision before you have to switch to magnification. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really not a deal breaker, but if I had to pick a con that really jumps out to me, that is it. So another con that comes up quite often are the arms levers, and the idea that if your upper's a little out of spec, the tension isn't adjustable so much, so they can kind of, they get a little loose. Listen, they make adjustable arms levers. I have 3 pairs of those. 2 of those pairs are still sitting in the box because I was just preparing for a problem that has yet to occur with any of the SpecterDR 1 to 4s that I have. So I'm sure if you're pulling this optic on and off and using those QD levers a lot, I'm sure they will loosen up over time. As someone who kind of put it on zeroed and doesn't yank it off regularly, this has not been a problem at all. I think it has been way overhyped in terms of concerns. Now, another thing to take note of is that the iron sights are for true emergencies only, and quite frankly, they suck. Not because they're like poorly made or anything, it's just the sight radius is too short for them to be very effective beyond like 25 yards. I don't recommend it. It's fine in a true emergency, but not something that is great. So in summary, I really like this optic. I think it gets way more hate than it deserves. Yes, the cost is high, so I highly recommend, hunting around on TaxSwap or on the gas group on Reddit to find one used. Having tried many things, I really like these, especially as somebody with astigmatism who is drawn to prisms and kind of that world. Man, I really like them. If you're going to get something like an EOTech and then throw a nice magnifier behind it, I mean, the irony is you're going to end up with something of similar size and weight to this optic with not the same, but different trade-offs. And I guess that's the big point. No optic is perfect, and there's always a balancing act of, what's the cross-section of what this optic does well, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses. In my opinion, this optic does a lot of things well, and when you add them up in one package, it's very hard to find something that kind of matches what it's up to. So that's my 2 cents, guys. Personal opinion as somebody who shoots these regularly and is really tired of watching people complain about things that they've never actually tried or trained with. So take it for what it's worth. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and I will catch you next time. Later.